Welcome back to another episode of the Badgernotes After Dark podcast, brought to you by Tom Brady and the good folks over at Autograph. I'm your host, Dillon Graff, co-founder of Badgernotes.com. You can follow the podcast on YouTube at Badgernotes After Dark or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. I got Coop and Ryan with me here this week. How we doing here, fellas?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I've been, thanks to you, actually, kind of in the loop with some of this whole rappy thing going on. I'm sure you're going to catch us up on that later tonight, but
Yeah.
Just felt good to be a part of something for once.
I'm glad you're getting cultured, dude. It's great to see.
A little more all the time. That's why I come here, just to learn a little something. Ryan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I was right there with Coop, following along on his tutelage as he walked us through the beef, and excited to hear his thoughts on it.
Yeah, so this week gonna be angling for a little bit shorter show. We're gonna kind of dive into
That's kiss to death.
Yeah, but we're gonna see here. So this week we're gonna talk about Wisconsin football team just wrapped up their 15th and final spring practice. And we're just going to kind of walk through the depth chart a little bit and specifically just do the offense this week. We'll get into defense a little bit next week. Just kind of talk about, how it's sitting right now, how we feel, how confident are we just in that room overall headed into the season, knowing the schedule that we have, kind of lying ahead. And then obviously we'll bring it home with our big dogs of the week and what are we doing here. So fellas, the Wisconsin Badgers, exit spring practice without a starting quarterback, named at this point. The quarterback competition is ongoing. We got, Tyler Van Dyke transfers in here. I think came on pretty strong second half of spring practice, but Braden Locke was there step for step with him along the way. Nick Evers has since transferred out to UConn, which, elevates Mabry Mettauer to the third-team quarterback right away. Ryan, I want to throw it over to you. Let's talk a little bit about the quarterback room right now. How do you feel about it top to bottom?
I think top to bottom we're okay given the circumstances of the season. Obviously, we all want to see Evers get a chance to play. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be. Even in some kind of we had talked about on the show many times, some kind of Taysom Hill, Tim Tebow. Well, I guess Tebow played full time, but just kind of that goal red zone, find a package for him. So it's a bummer that he's not here. I was a little bit nervous about depth when I was thinking about, between Tyler Van Dyke and Locke. If one of them gets hurt, you only have one other player that's started games. But I think at the end of the day, Mabry seems like he's picked up the offense. Dillon, you and I were there. We've had plenty of Badger Notes guys there covering it. And he certainly looks the part. I think if you get to him, as far as the depth, I think I don't want to say when it gets to him, the season's over, but at some level, if it gets to him, the season's over. So I think the depth is fine. You got a guy that's, had NFL first round potential way back when, trying to rekindle that in a similar offense that he had. And you got Braden Locke, who's always rock solid steady. Don't know that he's ever going to have the ceiling of Tyler Van Dyke or even Mabry, but his floor is certainly much higher than most. So I feel pretty good about the room. Obviously it's not like we got, this isn't the Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts room where you're two Heismans and a runner up, but I like where we're at. What about you, Coop?
It's the old, you got two quarterbacks, you got none. So that always makes you a little bit uneasy. Obviously, the official depth chart isn't out yet. But I can see when they get back to practice, it's Van Dyke or Locke, one of those situations. Like I said, makes you feel uneasy, but it's also a good thing when you got two guys heavily competing for a spot. And like you said, Van Dyke's got probably a lot higher ceiling, but Locke's floor you're comfortable with. I think we saw enough last year to where if he takes a little bit of a step up, okay, he's our quarterback. We can be fine with that. We can move forward. As far as one of them, say someone gets hurt or Mettauer has to go in, I don't know. Maybe he goes full blown fucking Cardell Jones, and all of a sudden we're in the national championship game or something. So, but I feel decent about the quarterback room. I'll say that. I'll feel better in the fall when we know a little more. But as of right now, I feel okay. I still I think Braden Locke's going to win the job, kind of like Ryan alluded to a month or so ago. I'm with you on that still. But I'm glad Van Dyke kind of picked it up the latter half of spring practice because by all accounts, the first couple practices were basically like Tanner Mordecai at the spring game last year, which for anyone who was there or just read about it was not great. So glad to see he's obviously just probably getting more comfortable with the offense, learning the playbook, getting more comfortable with the players where Locke has that advantage with the guys who were here last year. He already has a little kind of rapport with. So I think that is a huge advantage for Locke, and he needs to take advantage of that if he wants to start. But I don't feel terrible about the quarterback room. I feel better this year than I did last year, even though I think we all had higher expectations for Mordecai. Like after that, we just didn't know what we had. At least this year, like if no one else transfers out, I feel like, okay, if our starter goes down, at least we got a guy who can win games and we're not absolutely fucked as at too deep with our quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there. I, I I think we do have two quarterbacks right now that Wisconsin can win games with, which is important regardless who that guy is going to be. I do think that Tyler Van Dyke is ultimately going to win this job, and if I had to make a prediction, I would say pretty early in fall camp he'll probably take that and run. But the fact that Braden Locke is still here and that it still is a competition is encouraging because Tyler Van Dyke's a guy who has 28 starts under his belt, has played at a high level at times. So I think that Braden Locke has put in the work. Like he looks bigger. He's improved to some degree. And you're right. Like he has the advantage of, having chemistry with some of the returning pieces. I feel pretty good about the room as a whole. Not as great as I'd like to feel, kind of as you alluded to last year. I think with a guy like Tanner Mordecai, even though it didn't totally pan out that way, I felt more confident in the room. I thought maybe there was more high end talent, but Van Dyke has a big arm. I think he has the ability to push the ball downfield more than we did last season, which we did very little of. As long as he continues to make strides, get comfortable in the offense, I think he'll ultimately be the guy. But I like the room top to bottom. You've got an experienced option, whether or not he wins the job. You've got a guy like Braden Locke, who, if he goes out and takes it, could have multiple years of eligibility, and you could build around this guy for a few years potentially. And then Mabry Mettauer is a guy who's got all the tools and that you're developing for the future. And obviously, we know that with the transfer portal era, anything is possible. But I'm going to choose not to think that way for the sake of this, and just I think they've done a good job, especially going out and getting another quarterback to kind of have their scholarship distribution broken up, because last year you had an upperclassman and then you had just a bunch of freshmen and redshirt freshmen, where now you at least have some variance in the room. Obviously I'll potentially get a guy like Holacrew back at some point. It's hard to know. I mean, he just had is coming off of his second surgery. You don't know how much he'll factor in, but you hope he's healthy enough just to be there as a depth option.
And one thing we've talked about with the quarterbacks too, I mean, say it comes down to these two are dead even. Like, does that NIL money we gave Van Dyke matter? Like, all the coaches, you can say whatever you want, but subconsciously, like that shit, you're gonna think about that. It's just human nature. So, like, if they're dead even, does that play a part into it? And I feel like it's nothing against the coaching staff. Like anyone would think that way. Obviously, they want to put the team in the best position to win. But I could see that being a minor factor, like if these two are dead nuts during fall camp.
I don't think they're going to be dead nuts, though. I think coming out of spring, I feel like they know who they're going to go with. I mean, I don't know how much more you need to see them going and battling each other, because I think when you get to fall camp, if you have a competition going, you're missing valuable reps to build that rapport as a team, as a unit, as a leader. Because so much with that quarterback's like he needs to be able to command the huddle in the room. And if you have a divided locker room on who you think, because there might be some players that get the ball more from Locke versus Tyler Van Dyke might target other players. And you don't want that dividing the locker room. So I feel like when they come out in fall camp, I think it's only going to be a practice or two. And then whoever's starting is probably going to be your starter. Because I just don't see them doing the back and forth or making it a competition, because then you're going to get to those first two non-conference games, and like all those reps that you shared in between the two could have been used to build more offensive cohesion, if you will.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Can't argue that.
The only thing I will say is I don't think that this quarterback room currently possesses a quarterback, that's an absolute game changer that, I think you see on realistically all of the contenders. And that's not necessarily knocking this room. I think there's talent here for sure. Like I do feel good about the room, but I don't know that you have a quarterback that is going to go out and win you games more often than not right now. And I think that's maybe part of what is tempering some of my expectation for the season. Like I think that they're, and we'll get to it, but I think that a lot of the rooms, the staff has done an incredible job of introducing competition and adding talent in every room, and the best players are going to float to the top. But I don't know that we have that absolute difference maker at quarterback, and that's probably what it's going to take for a school like Wisconsin to ultimately break into some of those conversations, the college football playoff. I think this might be an area that could potentially hold us back. And with that being said, I still think this is a decent quarterback room.
Yeah.
Do we have any final thoughts on the quarterback room, or should we keep on moving, fellas?
I really got nothing else. Like a 2-horse race. We'll see.
Well, that brings us to the running back room, which I'll be the first to admit when they entered spring practice, with 8 scholarship running backs, if you count the 2 incoming freshmen that will join this summer. I did not expect there to be 8 scholarship running backs set to be on this roster come fall camp. But here we are. So, kind of sitting at the top as your 1A, 1B are Ches Malusi and then Tywee Walker. And then you got guys like Jackson Aker, Cade Giacomelli, Nate White kind of rounding it out. Coop, I want to throw it over to you. So how about the running back room? How do you feel about this group, compared to last season? And do you think this group can make a difference?
I feel great about the running back room. Obviously, Braylon Allen was a very good Wisconsin Badger football player. He had his flaws when it came to playing in this offensive system, and just overall, every player does. But I think these 2 guys with Ches and Big Dog Tui just fit this scheme better. And like it's going to be 1A, 1B basically. I know we've talked about like you can't overutilize Ches just because of his injury history, but he's a guy in this offense who's going to be fucking explosive. He's going to make some huge plays, and I think Twee's going to like fit this offense perfectly. Whereas Allen last year, it's like, okay, yeah, he's talented, but he's more of a kind of I formation. Let's get an 11 personnel quarterback under center, run it between the fucking tackles. Where Twee can catch out of the backfield a little more, maybe a little more explosive, but even just kind of watching some highlight, like this dude can bring the fucking pain. Like he is gonna run through people. So I'm really excited to watch him play in this system, and obviously he's gonna get a bigger opportunity here than I think he got at Oklahoma, and it's gonna be great for Ches to. I mean, would you 12 to 15 touches a game maybe is perfect for him?
I mean, that number sounds pretty good to me. I think that if he's healthy, that's a perfect number for him.
Yeah. So I love our 2 deep at running back. I think Walker is going to be an absolute stud. I cannot wait till his player props come out in the off season. We're emptying clips, baby. And then you go to the 3 deep, which presumably is going to be Aker. We saw some flashes last year. At least we know, like, maybe he gets 4 touches a game if we have to, maybe some goal line work. But it's not like when he comes in the game, you're like, oh, fuck, Jackson Aker's in the game. Like, he showed enough last year to be like, oh, okay, like, he can make some plays. After that, I really don't know a ton about the other 5 guys. I just know we have 5 other guys. So that's where I'm at.
Ryan, where's your head at?
Well, I like this room quite a bit. It's on a more side note, as everyone knows, at this point, I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan. We have a running back out there now, Michael Carter Jr., Michael Carter II. I wasn't too familiar with him before that, but I was at a Bears Cardinals game last year, and I was asking him, I was like, hey, what do you think of Phil Longo? He says he loves Phil Longo. So the more I've watched him, as the Cardinals, I started looking at our current running back room, and I'm getting these real Michael Carter Jr. and Javonte Williams vibes out of Ches and Tyree. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to be both second round picks, but I'm looking at, like, Ches has a similar skill set that Michael Carter has, and Tyree has that Javonte Williams. He's going to pound it, catch it out of the backfield. I like the makeup of the room, and that was obviously kind of an odd segue. But I think when Phil Longo had his most successful rushing offense in North Carolina, it was a two-headed monster,
and he had a pro quarterback.
Well, that helps. But I still think like having that two-headed monster that are a little bit different is going to be good. And then when you look at some of the younger guys, part of that 5 group that you were unfamiliar with, you got Dillon Jones and Darian Dupree. That kind of seemed like Darian would kind of slide into like that Ches role, more of a pass catcher. You can line him up outside. He can more run the route tree as a running back, and then Dillon Jones is kind of like your Tyree. He's your thumper. So, like looking at the current 2024 season, I like the running backs with Ches and Tyree in the 2 deep, and then you got, like you said, Aker comes in. Like he showed a lot even in spring practice. I was like, oh, okay, he seems to be even improving in the offense because he's going to take a little bit of leap. You don't know what's going to happen with Yakimelli. But yeah, with those, and then Gideon Atuka, this dude is built like a fire hydrant. Like I wouldn't want to tackle him if I got paid a lot of money to do it. He looks to hurt people, and I love that about football. That's one of the things I feel like a lot of football is missing now is like make football violent again. Shout out to Andrew Sandejo. And he's looking to bring the pain. But I think Phil Longo has a whole toolbox full of different weapons. Like you have fast guys, you have power guys, you have guys that can run route trees. Like I feel like he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox to be able to like deploy them in the offense. And I'm more high on this room. Obviously, I've said my piece about Braylon. I wish him the best on the Jets. Go make that generational wealth, brother. But as far as like top to bottom depth, like I like this room probably more than any Badgers room since like the Jonathan Taylor years, and he kind of buoyed those rooms.
Dillon, I know this isn't the exercise, but when the season opens, how many running backs do you think are still on the roster?
I'll be honest. I think probably 7. I think at this point, there's not a lot of incentive. I mean, the portal's closed. There's not a lot of incentive for the people
it opens back
on
up again,
scholarship. I don't really think there is a reason for anyone that didn't enter the spring portal to leave between now and, I mean, people can commit to teams, but nobody can leave, prior to camp rolling around. So I don't think unless someone really just does not see any path forward, any ability to put anything on tape, to prepare for a transfer, I'd say 7 or all 8 potentially. I don't think obviously that is ideal, and I don't in any way believe that they will carry 8 scholarship running backs, moving forward in the future. But right now, I kind of think that this room, I like the room quite a bit, more so from a depth standpoint than anything, and not just because they have 8 guys. But look at how quickly last year the dynamic changed as soon as Ches Malusi went down. Like you had Braylon, and Braylon, played well by all accounts, and he played through some injuries and whatnot. But as soon as you needed somebody to offset him, and that guy was Jackson Aker, like, okay, now you just had 2 running backs. You didn't have anything different. 2 guys that were just very north-south, like Coop said, kind of running between the tackles. This season, while I don't know that the room is necessarily more talented right now, I think that it's a far better schematic fit, and I think it's going to result in greater like offensive output. I mean, Ches Malusi, obviously we saw in a limited sample size what he could do in this offense. I think you have to feel really good about that. The big asterisk there is always going to be health, and he's had a lot of freak injuries, and you just have to hope that's exactly what they were, and that you can get a predominantly healthy season out of him. But I think bringing in a guy like Walker has proven to being one of the best decisions that they made in this transfer class. It was a really late addition, after National Signing Day. Like, this is somebody who I don't know anyone that really looked at it as an absolute need. once Ches announced he was coming back, but sure as hell happy to have him. I mean, like you said, he's guy runs really hard. I think he could be a short yardage option, but catches the ball really cleanly out of the backfield and is just not afraid to lower his helmet and make a play. And I think that between the two of them, they're going to be really, really good in this system. And honestly, the fact that Jackson Aker and Cade Giacomelli, who both saw time, down the stretch last season and show that they were capable running backs. I don't think either one screamed future starter by any means at any point in their career, but the fact that they didn't go away this spring, that they kind of held their place, I think that's really great from a depth standpoint because both of those guys, realistically shouldn't be needed much, but if injuries do occur, I think both of them can bring a dynamic to your offense that you can feel good about and at least trust them in that role. Obviously Gideon Atuka, as Ryan said, is somebody who I think he's one of the more unique builds and runners that like I don't even really know who at Wisconsin would make sense as a comp for him because he's so unique in the way that he's built. But Nate White is somebody who he's really fast. I don't really see a path forward for him to ever really earn carries. It was a Paul Christ holdover. You still got the two most talented running backs in your recruiting class joining the program this summer. I'll be honest. I think it's entirely possible one of those guys, and Darian Dupree or Dillon Jones, works their way into that third back. The staff is incredibly high on both of them, and they're going to be probably the two most talented running backs in the room. They're just going to be true freshmen, and they already have two very established upperclassmen at the top of the depth chart. But I don't know. I think this room gives you options. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of bodies here. It's built to withstand, a couple injuries, and we know that they're going to come.
I'll just say one thing. All in on Twee Walker. The only thing that makes me a little skeptical. Don't like it when my running back's number 3. I don't like that. That's not a running back number. Even with Ches number 1, we're just used to it, but I'll never get over some of these numbers. Like that's just not a running back number. That's a receiver number. But whatever.
Oh, I love the 3. It reminds me of Trey Benson at Florida State. He was number 3 also. Yeah. I'm a single digit narcissist. Like if you could put a single digit on a player, it to me aesthetically just hits so much harder. And I'm with you.
It looks dope, but like a running back who's gonna just thump people, like I want you in the 20s, 30s, or like 46, something like that.
A running back that's gonna thump you. What about Agent Zero?
I didn't like that. Like I thought 0 was a dumb running back number. That's a stupid number. At least be 00.
That would be sick too.
That would have been dope. 00. Now that's a thumper right there.
Yeah, I give you that one. As you know from our last week, we were talking about, it was either last week or the week before, we were talking about Greg Gard possibly not being done in the transfer portal. We were talking about adding another wing. I'm consistently saying when it comes to even to Tyree Walker, JUCO guy. I love those guys. Hungry dogs. In fact,
got that dog in them. Yep.
I think he played. I have to look it up. I think Garden City or somewhere. You look at some of the best players in the NFL, they took a route through Midwestern JUCO land. And Tyree is one of those guys. Played pretty
Aaron
well.
Rodgers.
Yeah, what was he, Butte?
Yeah.
I think Tyree was either at Garden City or somewhere out there in Kansas, and then before he went to Oklahoma. And it's just like, if you're playing JUCO football and make your way to Wisconsin, I am not betting against you. Like, you're at RBU, quote unquote, and you came from a Kansas JUCO. Like, I'm behind that guy 100%. That's my guy.
And I think the coolest part about Walker's story is, he went from JUCO. He led the Oklahoma Sooners in rushing last year as a walk-on. I mean, he was offered a walk-on opportunity, committed sight unseen, and now he's earned, a scholarship this year. Like, just a guy that I wouldn't want to bet against. And I'm really glad. Just the more time that has passed, the more that I feel like that was one of the most underrated, additions that this staff made in the transfer portal.
I think he's going to be my favorite player this year. I'm just going to say that.
Hopefully we're not drafting them because you got to get in line. I'm right there with you. I don't wear college players' jerseys, but if I was to ever get one of anyone on this roster right now, he'd probably be a leader in the clubhouse.
Now that's a great question. If you could have any college player jersey, who would it be?
On any team?
any player history, dead or alive. John Bon Jovi.
Oh, that one's an easy one, but we could save that one. Or do you want to do it right now?
Yeah, just like to you, like who would the dopest like college jersey be? Like if you could have anyone.
I'm gonna go with the very easy layup one, Reggie Bush 5.
That's exactly where my head went.
Mine did. Give me the Michael Vick black Virginia Tech jersey.
Oh, Reggie Bush 5, single digit. Whoops.
No. Yeah, but Reggie. Oh, whoa! Let's not even compare any of these guys to Reggie fucking Bush. Are you kidding me?
Single digit.
Reggie Bush. If you're that dope, you can get away with it. Tell him, Marshawn. You tell these motherfuckers, right?
Yeah, 24, Marshawn. Tell him.
If you're that sick, you can wear any number you want. None of these running backs are Reggie fucking Bush.
Remember when what was it? Denard Robinson? That was 97.
Yeah.
No, another guy. That was his backup was like 97 as a quarterback. Anyways,
I do.
Like that I kind of love. Or like when Teddy Bridgewater was like 50 this year.
Yeah, Mac Jones was 52 before he got traded.
Like that's funny. But when it's my starting like 1A running back, I don't know, number 3 just doesn't look right to me. Maybe I'm just a little old school in that sense. But yeah, Reggie Bush, that's a whole different fucking story, brother. Is one of the greatest, if not the greatest college football player I've ever seen.
And who was yours? Are you taking the 5? Oh, you said Virginia Tech.
Yeah. I would for sure go with Reggie as well. He's immediately where my head went to. Reggie Bush was electric, man. Very happy he got his Heisman back. So, fellas, let's move it on to the wide receiver room, where I think that we've got a weird combination of players that have not proven anything, and also a couple of pieces that I think that the offense is going to rely heavily on. In the slot, obviously, return Will Pauling. He's a guy who, had the 5th most receptions in school history in a single season last year. Came on really strong and just became a focal point of this offense. You had to feel really good about him coming back. And then right now on the outside, you got Bryson Green. Showed some flashes throughout the year, ended the season strong. I think collectively probably expected a little more from him last year, but the offense never really found its stride. But he's back. He's starting on the outside. And then, for the sake of this, the other day, receivers coach Kenny Guyton said that if there was a game to be played today, that Vinny Anthony, one of the 2 remaining Paul Chryst holdovers in this room, would be the opposite starting receiver on the outside. So, that it's good to hear that obviously that he's been consistent enough that he's put himself in that position. But honestly, the players behind them are still offer some upside and intrigue as well, because you've got Trech Kahuna, who I think is, been one of the biggest stock risers in all of spring, somebody that the fan base probably collectively couldn't be higher on right now. Then you got CJ Williams, who I think a year ago we were all incredibly excited about, and now is kind of becoming almost like an afterthought, even after adding 15 pounds. And then we got Quincy Burrows and Michigan State transfer Tyrell Henry, who I still am not sure how he really figures into this mix outside of, being a return man. But, this is the group that we're going to roll into the season with. Ryan, I want to throw it over to you. Where's your head at with this group? And do you think that they will be more productive than they were last season?
Yes, I think they're going to be more productive. I think when I look at this room, I'm very, very much in tune with the same I had. If you copy and paste everything I said about the running backs, I feel like I could say that about wide receivers. You kind of have a bunch of guys that can do something very, very specific. So depending on your matchups and everything, I think you got a lot of tools in that toolbox as well. I like the idea of Bryson Green having a huge season this year. And I think when I look back at some of like the highlights of when the plays he made, it's when we were taking shots downfield, but Tanner did his best to lead this team, lead us through a transition of coaching, kind of amalgamation of 2 different philosophies on the roster and what was brought in. I think with Bryson Green getting like Tyler Van Dyke, who wants to push the ball down the field, or even Braden Locke, who was slinging it down the field in spring ball, I feel like he's going to have a big season, because it's like anytime there was a long ball, it was pretty much to him. Because I remember I was going back and looking at some of the Rutgers film, because I wanted to see what I thought about Max Melton, the Rutgers
good player, good player,
good 2nd round pick. Bryson Green was giving him the business. Like I'm watching some of these routes, and I don't want to be too low on Max Melton because it was just one day, but Bryson Green was getting open. It's just we weren't taking the shots. There was, if you remember in that Rutgers game where he got the pass interference. This one wasn't on Melton, but it was on someone else, where Mordecai was like hitching, and then it was like 3 yards short. If he throws that thing on time, Green has like 2 yards of separation for a 40-yard touchdown. You saw in the bowl game, he was catching passes, deep ones. He had that catch and run against Indiana. It's like, and I don't want to minimize the fact that I believe he was all in fall camp last year in a boot. So, like, the best way to learn an offense is to play in an offense. So when you're starting your first fall camp in a boot and not getting out there, I think it's going to limit you. And we already know what Pauling can do. We all, like Dillon said, we are just electrically high on Trech Kahuna. I think there's a lot of weapons in there. And if Vinny's going to be the starting outside guy, that gives me one, I'm very excited about his work ethic and his diligence and his perseverance to stick with it and go get one of those starting spots. And if he does, but then I also like the depth of CJ, Quincy, Tyrell. Tyrell seems like more of a slot guy from what we saw in spring, but I like the depth. Like I think last year, much like the quarterbacks, like once Tanner was out, it was like we have a bunch of freshmen. It felt like that with receivers. Like if Chim isn't doing much, we got a bunch of young guys, and then Pauling came on. Tretch showed up in the bowl game. Bryson Green was hit or miss. Like I think the boys could really break out this year, especially with a gunslinger and Braden Locke, who's pushing the ball down the field a little bit more in spring camp. I think there's gonna be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I just love the wide receiver room. When you got six legit guys who could start on this team, that's hard not to be excited about. So I might have to, like, I guess, do a deeper dive into not only last year, but Phil Longo at UNC. With all the talk about Tretch, like, how many 4 wide receiver sets do you think we play this year?
A lot.
Yeah.
I think they're going to utilize 10 personnel quite a bit. And obviously we haven't talked about the tight end room, but I think that's going to play a role in getting more, like using 10 personnel more and just getting that, fourth receiver on the field. I just don't see a reason why you wouldn't try to get 2 of your most dynamic route runners on the field.
But even if it's not Tretcher, it's Williams and Burrows, like I'm still like feel confident about all of those guys on the field. And then as far as like Will Pauling, I think we know what he's going to do. He's a dog. I'm with Ryan. I think Green could have a monster season. We clearly didn't take advantage of his skill set last year, whether that was lack of quarterback play, lack of offensive line play, just lack of cohesion in the offense. There could be, there's a myriad of things why it didn't go his way. But you saw enough flashes to like get excited about him in his second year in this offense. And then, I mean, Vinny Anthony Jr. the second. What a football guy name. I'm all in there. Are you kidding me? I absolutely love that. And one guy, like I'll never be able to quit. I think he's got like all the potential as Quincy Burrows. So really excited to see what he can do on the outside this year. Because I assume he's going to be playing X, like kind of spelling green. Yeah, I love this wide receiver room. I honestly probably, I don't think this is like a hot take or a stretch, probably the most talented group we have, or maybe at least the deepest.
Talking offensively?
Yeah.
Of all time or just in recent?
No, like on this team.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I was like, there was a time we had Nick Toon and Jared Abrams.
No. I'm saying like on like
this and Alex Erickson, you had 3 NFL guys. I was
like on this current team, like that might be the most talented room.
So I feel like then this is the perfect time for me to throw in my differing opinion. I think I'm the low man on this room out of the 3 of us. But I'm going to tell you why. Part of it is I actually maybe have a reason for, and the other part is just history has repeatedly shown me that in spring and fall, I'm going to be high on the receiver room. And then when games roll around, I don't need to be high in the receiver room. So I think I'm going to temper my own expectations here because yeah, I do know what they have in Will Pauling. But I'm talking about a lot of what ifs behind that.
Yeah.
And I don't. I don't think there's enough proof in the pudding here for me to buy into this group completely. I do think Tretch is going to have a huge year, but a lot of teams have dynamic slot receivers. I don't think that makes Wisconsin incredibly special. I think we do have two really good ones. I don't want to minimize that. I do think Bryson Green is a guy who we should have found a way to get the ball to more. And if he's someone that they can consistently be getting 5-6 targets, a game, his EPA per play was pretty impressive a year ago. He was somebody who warranted getting the ball more, but they weren't able to do it. He's a big if for me. Like if they can get him the ball, get him the opportunities with room to work, he's also one of the Badgers' best yak guys. And I think there exists an opportunity there. But beyond that, I have a lot of guys who admittedly, I like things about each of them, but there's no proof here yet. Like Vinny Anthony is a guy I know runs really fast. And the fact that he has kind of risen to this spot on the depth chart should be really encouraging because they have been preaching consistency all spring. He's been that, and he's not a guy that they recruited. So I think there's something to be said for that too. Like you're one of the few guys as a Paul Chryst holdover. It's you and Chris Brooks at this point. So I think there's reason to feel good about it. CJ Williams, a guy who's incredibly talented, but it hasn't materialized at all. And now you're talking that they work to get him a couple like reps in the slot. I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect is there because he has a lot of talent. It hasn't translated yet. Quincy Burrows is another guy who I definitely believe in the talent. I think he's the fastest receiver on the roster. I think that he could very well catch 15 or more passes this season. And I'm talking way downfield, average like 18 yards a catch or something like that. But
that's all you need from him.
Absolutely. But the staff has pretty routinely made it clear that he's not been consistent enough. And that's, where I want to pause. If he's not, doesn't mean he won't put it together. But I guess my overarching point is just with all of this room, there's a lot of guys that there are things I like and there's plenty of talent. I'm not questioning that. They could very easily come out and be a great room. But I think that it's more likely that early in the season we'll watch 6-7 guys start playing, and by the third game of the season, we'll be running out for 4 guys.
I mean, yeah, but I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid right now, dude. I love this room.
I've felt that same way so many times that I think it's almost like
but in the past,
it's almost poisoned my brain to the point where like I can't let myself go there. It's like every spring when the narrative gets put out there about the Badgers wanting to throw their running backs more. And every year I'm like, oh yeah, like that's going to be a huge part of the offense. And then they don't do that thing.
Well, it was last year. It just happened to be negative 2-yard swing passes out of the backfield.
Well, they always talk about how they're going to get 2 running backs on the field together too. And I always get excited about that. And then they do that for like a snap the entire season.
I think we get excited about that because we were spoiled with the Melvin Gordon jet sweep years where it's like,
right, yeah, where he almost ran for 1,000 yards being a jet sweep
guy. Yeah,
yeah, that was spoiled is an understatement. I mean, it's the reason that we can look at a guy like Braylon Allen and be like, we need to pump the brakes on the way that some people are maybe remembering him. Like, terrific player. Most schools would look at him as a Mount Rushmore back for them, but our Mount Rushmore looks a little different. We got to watch him for 25, 26 years straight of just like elite running back play. It was just wild.
We got 2 Mount Rushmores worth of backs before you get to some of the newer guys.
For sure. So yeah, I think to your point, Coop, that it's easy to drink the Kool-Aid, and I want to be the wrong one. But I'm gonna probably come away as the low man in this receiver room.
I'll die on this. So I'll just blame the coaches and the quarterbacks all season.
I do like the room. I think there exists possibility to have some playmakers. They should be better than they were a year ago, but that's a pretty low bar. I mean, it was the lowest scoring offense the Badgers have had in 19 years last season. So I think there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of why I'm so excited about this wide receiver group is just because last year it was so bad. Like, it has to be better, right?
Well, it's the worst offense you said in 19 years, and all they added was Tyrell Henry. So clearly, Phil Longo, who's pretty good at offense, likes what he has in the room. It just didn't go as far as he want. I don't know. I think his lack of movement gives me more optimism because if he thought it was bad, those guys would have been gone.
Yeah. Well, the quarterback play is going to be huge. Obviously, I mean, it sounds dumb to like say it, but a lot of those how these wide receivers perform is going to be the quarterback play.
And I think all of that's totally fair because like I'm not really questioning the talent in the room as a whole, and it was a huge system overhaul. I mean, and it's a weird situation because kind of to Luke Fickell's staff's credit and their detriment, they retained majority of Paul Chris' roster. You know, like it was on paper supposed to be a good team. It didn't end up being a perfect fit. You know, they've gotten, you know, a few more of their guys in here, but they should have, like, I just look at like a Trechka Kahuna. Like he's probably going to assume all of Skylar Bell's snaps from a year ago. I like that right there. To me is a significant upgrade. That's not a knock on Skylar Bell, but like he had the drops last year. And
exactly.
And Tretch is somebody who not only am I not worried about him dropping the ball, but I think he's going to if you get the ball in his hands in space, I think he's going to do something with it. I think he has that potential. And so, and you're going to know that you have a Will Pauling earlier on. The tools are there. I guess I just need to see it for myself. And the fact that the Badgers are so aggressively portal shopping right now for another boundary receiver, tells me that they don't feel great about maybe the two deep as a whole. So that's where my pause comes in. But do think there's talent. Hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm the one that for once didn't drink the Kool-Aid and then was just dead ass wrong. Fellas, let's talk tight ends because this room was not one of the more productive ones for the Badgers a season ago. But we've got some intriguing pieces. Got a guy like Riley Nowakowski, converted fullback who sits top the depth chart right now. The staff awarded him a scholarship last year. Didn't have to do that. Somebody that they really like, really assignment sound guy that you can just kind of trust. Fairly undersized in terms of being a tight end, though, at 6'1", not necessarily ideal. Tucker Ashcraft, who I think showed some flashes of some really nice things, has a long way to come as a blocker, but somebody who got some really valuable experience a year ago. Jackson McGohan, LSU transfer, somebody who probably one of the fastest tight ends in the room, natural pass catcher, somebody who probably is not prepared to block in the Big Ten right now. And then you've got JT Seagreaves, in-state product, really athletic, still kind of trying to find his niche in this room. And then Grant Steck, 260-pound, 4-star freshman. Does not look like your average freshman, and it very well could be the future of this room overall. But Ryan, I want to throw it over to you. Where's your head at with this room? Will they be more productive than a year ago?
Again, more productive. I like we were talking about with the offense as a whole. I don't know that they have much option to go but up. As far as like overall fit for the team, I'm not high and I'm not low. I'm more of a meh on this one. I think the loss of Hayden Rucci. I mean, he wasn't a big pass catcher, but like a lot of if you look back at a lot of those like screen games with Pauling, he was coming there and just cleaning out people to let him get into the middle and get the yak. I don't know who's going to step up and do that blocking because I like, for me, I'm a big complete tight end fan. Like Ashcraft has pass catching abilities. McGowan has pass catching abilities. Grant Steck looks like an absolute unit of a human at 260. Rob Booker's a pass catcher. Like I know that's the nature of the offense, but we need some blocking too. Like if you go out there and you're not going to block anybody, like you're pretty one-dimensional. So I would say I'm not down on the room. I'm more of meh or grade is incomplete. Like I'd like to see more reports. Like because I mean this with all due respect to my guy Riley, but if he's starting week 1, I think we have problems with the room. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. I think he's a team guy. He's a culture guy. He buys in. Like, he is a good player. However, with the star power and the talent and the athleticism they have in the room, if those guys aren't kind of like, if all we have is like Riley and then maybe Ashcraft in a sophomore season, I'm going to be pretty nervous about the overall room.
Yeah, I'm kind of lockstep with you, Ryan. Like all these guys obviously have like the skills or like one thing that kind of gets you excited about them, but no one's complete. The lack of blocking, I feel like in this room is going to be an issue for us this year. I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a couple plays like this season, even from like Ashcraft or McGohan, where like you're going to see the talent from them on the receiving end, and you're going to be like, oh my god, like what if this guy can just block, like he's going to be unstoppable and like future NFL prospect type tight end. Like I feel like we've had a lot at Wisconsin, but we have no one like that as of right now for this year. So that is cause for concern. And just to, I guess to piggyback off, like usually the tight end room, like we have a guy or two where it's like, oh, like I know we can count on this guy to block, and his route tree within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage is good enough, like to make enough plays. And this year, I just don't think we have that. Nowakowski is probably going to drive me fucking insane this season. I can already just see that coming. Same with Ashcraft. I mean, he showed a lot of flashes last year, but there's a long way to go. So this room needs a lot of coaching. I guess I'll leave it at that. And how I feel about the wide receiver room, I feel kind of the exact opposite about the tight end room.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. Like the tight end room, as you know, we kind of talked about, like there's something to like about each of these players. There's way more upside in this room, you know, than a year ago, but there's no more proven options. I mean, it's a real bummer that Tucker Ashcraft didn't get a full spring. I think that would have been really important to him or for him to get some of those reps. I think he's who they want to be tight end one. And I mean, he's got the frame to be someone who can block. And, you know, he got thrown in there as a true freshman. So perhaps that part of his game can develop. I think he's who you want to see at the top of the depth chart. Riley Nowakowski is who we're going to see probably quite a bit of because that's who they trust. I mean, we saw it late last season when he finally got healthy, how quickly he was thrust into the rotation because he was somebody that they trusted to execute. I think that'll be the case a lot this season again. I think there's some fun pieces in this room. Perhaps down the road they will develop. I think overall they will find a way to be more productive because last year's team was probably the least productive tight end room that I could ever remember. I think that they're going to probably try to utilize 10 personnel and get an extra receiver on the field a good amount, and then utilize their tight ends kind of interchangeably depending on what they need to happen.
And like I said, a lot of it's going to be coaching. Like blocking is two things: technique and effort. And one of them the player can control, and the other one the coach can help control. So we'll see.
Go ahead. And I know we're going to get to offensive line next, but I think one of my points now is going to apply later. But do you think when we were talking about earlier, when we were talking about Braylon Allen, how like he would be a Mount Rushmore at somewhere else? Do you think that may factor into why we could be a little lower on the tight end room? Because, you know, Jake Ferguson was an absolute animal for what, 3 was he 3 years or 4 years?
He was all 4.
So he was all 4, and then before that you had Fumagalli. So it's like we've had great, and I mean we're not Iowa in tight end production, but
we've
for
had
like the
really good players though.
Yeah, but for like the last 7-8 years, we've had an NFL tight end. So I feel like when we don't have it, it's like, wow, are we lower on the room now because we don't have an NFL guy in there?
Yes.
Compared to like the previous year.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, if you look across college football, a lot of times those NFL guys didn't even end up being like crazy productive. And we've had some tight ends over the last 10, 15 years that were pretty damn productive. So yeah, I think that's totally fair. I still don't know that I would feel as a whole that I would feel great about this room. But I'm not necessarily down on it. I'm kind of with both of you guys. I need to wait and see. I can't speak in any definitives with this room, but yeah, there's not an NFL guy necessarily right now. It's not to say a guy like Grant Steck couldn't be, but we have no idea today what this room will be, and I think that's fair. We've so often had two tight ends that we always knew who the next good one was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, let's start talking about probably one of the more polarizing rooms at Wisconsin that is going to be dissected probably by Badger fans more than really any other program across the country, and that's the offensive line room. This group, quite frankly, they struggled a year ago. Obviously, huge change in what was being asked of them on offense. But their offensive line coach was fired. I think Jack Bicknell is not going to particularly be missed by any of us. At times, the offensive line was undisciplined.
At times,
I thought they finished the year pretty strong. I thought earlier in the year they were their own worst enemy. But we do bring back a pretty significant amount of veteran experience. At left tackle, you've got Jack Nelson. Joe Brunner slid inside. He is now your left guard. He held the spot all spring. High pedigree kid from out of state. Think you feel probably pretty good about that. You got Jake Renfro healthy. Saw he won one of the offseason weightlifting awards. He's somebody who was supposed to be a pretty core member of the team last year, and so I personally am pretty excited about seeing how he can change the dynamic of this offense. Joe Huber flips over to right guard, and then you got Riley Mullman. Then it's kind of where the questions begin, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Coop. As far as the two deep, let's go for the starters first. Where's your head at with the starters? How do you feel about them? And then after that, as far as the two deep, how comfortable are you with it?
I think it's been well documented how I feel about Jack Nelson. Not the biggest fan. I'll just throw that out there. Says a lot to me when you're a potential day 1, day 2 pick, and then you fall off the face of the earth, and you have to come back for your senior season because you wouldn't have got drafted to like the 5th or 6th round, maybe. Obviously the talent's there. Like, I can't hate on the fucking guy that much. The talent's there, but after last season, it was pathetic. So we'll see. But there's a lot of schools who would take Jack Nelson. I can admit that. Brunner, I really like at left guard. I think he's going to be solid. Like I said, Renfro to me is really key to this group. If he can give us 90% of what he was when he played at Cincinnati, I think we're going to be stoked. And I think it's an improvement over the position last year, just because more of a natural fit at center. Huber leaves some things to be desired, but who is it, him or Benchwall? You're going to go with at right guard, maybe? I mean, Benchwall's probably going to play a decent amount. He'll be our 6th guy, I'm assuming, kind of our swing lineman. And then Mullman, I think you guys both know I love Riley Mullman. I think he's probably day 2, day 3 pick right now, as it is now in the NFL. But I really love Mullman. I think this dude's got a ton of upside. He had some really, really great games last year and some really, really dog shit games last year. So if he just regresses kind of to the mean of that a little bit, I think we'll be better. As far as the 2 deep goes, like, after Benchwall, there's a lot of questions. I mean, you're looking at the 2 deep. We all love Big Kev Haywood. Right now, they got him at our 2nd left tackle, but the kid's a true freshman. Like, you're playing in the Big Ten, man. There's a lot of learning to do. Not that he can't do it. He obviously has the size, the athleticism, and the talent. Would have loved if we could have afforded to redshirt him, but obviously it doesn't look like that's going to be in the cards. And then another freshman on your 2 deep with James Duran. I really don't know a ton about him, to be honest, but like we've talked about before, just fresh, true, or well, he's a redshirt, but freshman coming into the Big Ten, like it's hard to play. So the redshirt year is probably going to help him, but still, like with no really experience, like if Brunner gets hurt, or even say Huber gets hurt, and he's got to slide into guard, who knows? That could be that could be a cascading failures, if we will. And then as far, I mean, Lenton Nelson backing up Malman, okay. It could be better. Like the too deep to me leaves a lot to be desired. With the younger guys, there's a lot of potential there, like especially Haywood. I think we all have really, really high aspirations for him, but would have loved to have a stronger too deep where he could have just redshirted and bulked up and kind of learned. So the starters, I feel okay about. I think Nelson really needs to get back to form if this group wants to kind of take the next step from where they were last year. And to kind of go back to like our tight end and wide receiver talk, like if we're playing more 10 personnel, you're putting a lot of pressure on this offensive line. So that to me is cause for concern. So that's right. I'm kind of up in the air. Like you said, Dillon, this is the most polarizing room. Everything could click with this group and they could turn out to be the best room we have on offense this year. Or it could be like last year where every game you're just criticizing the offensive line and they're killing drives with stupid penalties, bad snaps, missed assignments. So that's where I'm at. Like just kind of stuck in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, AJ Blazik, if he can get things back on track, he'll be a folk hero at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Fourth coach in as many years. Ryan, what about you, man? Where are you at with this?
Yeah, I think I'm high on him. It's weird. I shouldn't even say I'm high on him. I'm a really, really high wire act, I guess. Like Coop said, if everything clicks, I think this team with Blas as the new offensive line coach who's got the accountability, like he's going to hold them accountable, teach them up, train them up, and get them ready. I'm optimistic about it. Like my concern for the offensive line grows exponentially when we move from center. Like I'm very confident in Renfro. You get to the guards, I'm a little less confident, but still like him. Like I really like Bruner. I don't know how Huber's going to do. I think it's hard because we didn't know that much about him. Like yeah, he played a little bit last year, but then you had other buddy that went to Indiana and Furtney in there too. So it was kind of like a shuffling around. So it's like I'd like to see him be set in a position and go with it. Yeah, as far as Jack Nelson, like he has day one, day two talent. I like to chalk it up to like, hey, you're learning a new system. You're not going to play air raid in the NFL. Like you want to learn these concepts because you're going to have these concepts in the NFL. So hopefully with an off season, strength and conditioning, all the things that are needed. Like I think sometimes we forget it was the first year. So hopefully maybe I'm just drinking too much Kool-Aid. Like I'm big on Malman too. But yeah, like it's a very high wire act because if we sustain any injuries, I am terrified about the depth. And like
Yes.
you said, I like Ryan Corey. I like Derek Jensen. I like James Duran, Valley kid from Arizona. Basha, I think, good program. I mean, it's no North Canyon or Saguaro, but it'll do. And
What?
huh?
I don't know what any of that was you just said.
Ryan's an Arizona guy.
So Basha's in the highest level of high school football, and
It's like us talking about Badgernotes football, Dillon. He's like, I'm lost right now, dude.
There you go. Yeah, North Canyon is where I went to school. Saguaro and Chaparral and Corona del Sol are some of the best programs. Desert Vista, some of the best programs in the valley. So Bash is good, but they're not better than the other ones. So that was my my valley knowledge and taking a shot at their program at the same time. Like you said, big Kevin Haywood. I'm probably the most optimistic on him. It's not just because I like him or his family. It's just I really think he could be a day one guy. But like you said, like the Big Ten and bulking up, I would love for him, not even necessarily for the red shirt, because I think if he plays to his potential in his size, I don't think he's here more than 3 years anyway. So whether he red shirts or not this year, I think I don't want him thrust out there against like Bama, like because like either for inefficiency or discipline or any like undisciplined penalties or whatnot. So I hope Nelson regains his form so he can get back to his NFL pedigree that he has. For me, like I said, I don't think Kevin is going to be more than 3 years. So whether he redshirts this year, I'm sure he plays the next two at left tackle, then is probably a first rounder, second rounder, depending on how well he plays. But yeah, I like the depth for 2025 or maybe 2026 for some of those guys. But yeah, for me, I'm very much on the high wire act. I'm very, very optimistic until someone gets hurt, and then I'm gonna literally be bitching about it every day until the bowl game.
Yeah, I think when I look at this starting group, I that's probably a B plus or has potential to be an A minus level offensive line. I'm optimistic that they'll execute better this season. You know, just having been in a full season, if Jake Renfro can be healthy. You know, there's some ifs here. Um, I really like Joe Brunner. I think he's someone who brings just a lot of nasty on the interior, and maybe like this is a group that we need to see improve as a run blocking unit. They were decent in pass protection, which admittedly I was kind of surprised that was probably more so their calling card a year ago. But this is a group that needs to be a lot better in the run game and get that push. Um, but if anybody, like we said, if anyone goes down, I think it doesn't matter which player gets hurt. I think that JP Benshaw's coming in, and say a tackle goes down, I feel pretty confident in saying that it'll be whichever guard is closest to them is going to kick out, and Benshaw will slot in at guard. I mean, they started working Brunner at left tackle. I mean, Joe Huber he started at Cincinnati as a right tackle.
Which,
You know, he's moved around. Like I think Huber is a good offensive lineman. I don't think he a special offensive lineman, but I think your first move is bringing in JP and kicking one of those guards out to tackle.
which is like that happened to me like between my junior and senior of high school. Obviously, it's a way different level of football, and maybe it's just because of my lack of athleticism, or I like being in the trenches. I was a fucking helmet on helmet kind of guy. But they try to kick me from right guard to left tackle my senior year in football. And I made it like 2 practices, and I'm like, coach, like I'm gonna get cooked out here at left tackle. Like I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And then they moved me back to fucking guard, first team all conference. Sup, how you doing? But so like just to kind of compare that to the Badgers, like I said, obviously it's a whole different level. But that's where it concerns me more, where like these guys are way more talented than any like high school player like me would have been. But going from like getting kicked out from guard to tackle is a whole different world. Especially when Ryan's like when we're playing Bama, we're playing Oregon, we're playing some of these premier programs this year. Like the guys lining up across from you are fucking studs. And when you're used to going against like a 3 technique or a 280 pound, 290 pound defensive tackle, now all of a sudden you got a 255-pound edge rusher who runs a 4.4 and you're trying to get in a pass set. Like it's a scary, scary situation, man. Not that they can't do it, but that's a huge cause for concern.
You know, and last year, I think was one of the few instances where the offensive line didn't have any issues. They got through unscathed, and you know they were able to bring in a Trey Wedig, and they pretty much got away with that. But that's not the luxury in most seasons that you're going to have. And while I think JP Benshaw can give you, a decent option on the interior. If it goes any further than that, I think you're damn near hitting the panic button. And again, like Kevin Haywood, he's a special talent. I think that all the potential in the world is there. Not someone that I think as an 18-year-old true freshman, you want having to step in there. Leighton Nelson maybe could be the guy who you feel more comfortable running out there. But I think Kevin and Leighton are pretty well locked into those left and right tackle roles. I think those are guys that they're developing to be the successors for next season. But yeah, I mean, Kerry Kadenko, you look at him like that's somebody, he's a walk-on. I mean, that's not that walk-ons can't, develop into contributors, but like there's just not a lot of proof here. And even when the rest of these young players show up this summer and into fall camp, even if they do rise, like these are still freshmen that we're talking about. Maybe Barrett Nelson is a guy who, he missed a lot of spring. Like maybe he's a guy who can push and establish himself one of those tackle spots. But I don't feel comfortable saying that, really anyone other than JP Benshaw and perhaps a Kevin Haywood or Leighton Nelson should probably be seeing the field. Because I think you immediately say Jake Renfro goes down. I think Huber immediately becomes your starting center.
He kicks in, and then Benshaw comes in at guard. But
they're not without options, but they need a lot to go right. I think that they will be better.
We need to be like almost lucky rather than good with the offensive line.
I think that's totally fair. Because we need this group to be good for the rest of. I mean, the offense isn't going to be anything if this unit cannot be a strength. And that's why they brought in Blase. That's why they're paying 2 offensive line coaches this year, because they need this to be a strength.
Do we have any more Nelsons we can put on the offensive line? Because if we got 3 of them, like, imagine calling you got a whole line of Nelsons.
That'd be a marketing opportunity for sure.
That would be incredible, dude. Yeah, the Nelson 5. Like, talk about NIL deals.
Oh hell yeah!
The law firm of Nelson, Nelson and Nelson.
Nelson and Nelson.
Nelson and Sons.
Well, fellas, that's the offense. Glad we were able to talk through that. Glad we got to really just reminisce on 15 spring football practices that we had to make probably a bigger deal than they really were. It's just the only football that you're getting in April and May at this point. So,
also, I do want to say, I think we didn't have a spring game because the head of concessions is an absolute fucking coward and knew I was going to show up for fucking business this year. So
people are talking.
Yeah. Hey, it's not me. It's the streets are talking. I'm just reiterating it. So I think that's why we didn't have a spring game. They knew what I was about. That was a business trip for your boy.
They're taking a year to get ready for you. they're going to roll out the fucking red carpet,
which is fine.
Spring.
Which is fine. It's just like EA Sports College Football. Take a couple years, but get it right when you roll it out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good closing thought there. Which brings us to the big dog of the week. And Ryan, I know you got one for us this week. Who's going to be your big dog this week?
Well, my big dog of the week is going to be by proxy because of another person who made him look even better. My big dog of the week is going to be Tanner Mordecai. The more I understand and read about Rashee Rice down in Dallas, credit to Tanner Mordecai for throwing him so many tuds to get him drafted. Because if for those that are unaware, crashed his Lamborghini going over 100 miles an hour, six cars. Allegedly, of course, except for the video of the person literally just recording it. But still allegedly, leaving his Lamborghini on the side of the road on a hit and run. Apparently, he just invited a photographer to come to a bar the other day and then just started beating his ass for whatever.
Fuck out of him.
So, I mean, I guess if you're on thin ice, I mean, why not double down on crazy? But then I was kind of going through, and this is real allegedly, so I'll put it out there. Allegedly, there's some stuff that was covered up at SMU about him and some tools that go bang, bang. That was so credit to Tanner Mordecai, big dog of the week. That was just my way of trying to get some Rashee Rice slander in there. But the fact that he was it kind of felt like when I heard this story about Rashee Rice, I'm sitting there thinking like that Tanner Mordecai must have been Tim Tebow down there, like the good guy throwing tuds to like have not everybody look at the SMU nonsense that was going on. So Tanner Mordecai by default, big dog of the week.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised by Rashee Rice. Them Texas boys they built different, dude. Like a country with a K, like. So not surprising. Like we kind of touched on it before the episode with Rice. Like we're gonna see. Okay, how good are you? Like for your career in the NFL, like where it goes. Like if you're talented enough, teams are gonna give you chance after chance after chance after chance. But
let's see where that talent ends.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think his suspension is going to be? A season?
Oh dear God! I thought it was already going to be. I had heard 6 to 8 games just for the cars. Now
Yeah,
you
they beat the
photographers. Like,
fuck out of the photographer. Yeah.
I mean, between that and if this SMU stuff starts coming up, like allegedly they had 28 teams that took them off their board for draft board. So it's like if that starts coming back up, like, I mean, is the commissioner just going to have to suspend him indefinitely? 'Cause
Maybe.
I mean, at some level, and then you can reinstate
Here's-
him in week 13 or whatever. But you're still
Here's
kinda,
a question: who gets a longer suspension, him or Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley, 100%.
Yeah,
Which
Calvin.
is fucked up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's you're messing with the NFL's money. You
Yep.
can do whatever you want. Like I always say, be who you can afford to be. If you start messing with the deep pockets, that's when you get in trouble. Like I mean, they had literally people beating women and children back in like 6 weeks. So
Ray Lewis killed the guy, allegedly.
yeah, well, there was people in the NFL that allegedly did kill guys and got still playing.
They're no longer with us, but yeah.
Rest in paradise.
Yeah.
So Tanner Mordecai, big dog of the week.
Yeah, it goes. Eh? My
It
guy.
all circles back.
Coop, who's your big dog this week?
All right, as always, we got a couple. The first one is I got to do some more research. This will probably be for next week. Got to get the boys caught up on the Young Thug case. But big dog of the week, Young Thug. Today is the 2-year anniversary of him getting arrested on RICO charges. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I just saw some Twitter clips this week. They were playing his music in court, and him and his lawyer were like just like singing it like bobbing like word for word, like they were in the club or something. I was like, man, I fucking love this guy. So shout out Young Thug, big dog of the week. Another big dog of the week, Paul Skeens getting called up for my Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm sure, as we always do, we'll find a way to absolutely fuck this up. But as of right now, I'm excited for Paul Skeens getting called up. Sup, Livy Dunn, how you doing? Another big dog of the week. I know we've talked about this a decent amount. Kendrick Lamar. I mean, I love a good rap battle as much as anybody. I've never been the biggest Drake fan. And so Kendrick Lamar going absolutely nuclear on this man this past weekend in their diss battle was just incredible. The fact that Drake probably dropped his best diss track and then Kendrick dropped his diss track 6 minutes later about how he's hiding a child. His dad's a deadbeat, or his dad is a deadbeat. He should have wore a condom. He doesn't love his mom. His mom is a piece of shit. Kendrick hope he dies. I was like, oh my God, like this is some dark shit. And then Kendrick comes back the next day and literally puts out, it's the most popular rap song, one of the most popular rap songs like ever as far as first week numbers goes. Got like 40 something million plays. Not Like Us. Just an absolute West Coast bop club anthem. There's literally people, they're playing this shaking ass in clubs. Kendrick Lamar is rapping over this club beat, talking about how Drake downloads PDF files, how like people on Drake's team are sex offenders and shit like that. He called Drake a colonizer. Like, dude, like shit's getting out of hand. But I loved it. I thought Kendrick destroyed him. I hope Drake puts out more diss tracks just so I can get more Kendrick Lamar music. So as a huge hip hop head, like I was all in on this rap beef, and I'm glad. I'm biased, but I think Kendrick came out on top by a large margin. And I was also glad in our group chat, Dillon was all the way invested in on this rap beef. I knew Ryan would be in on it, but when Dillon started posting tracks, being like, dude, I love this rap beef. I was like, fuck yeah. That's how you know this is like a global or a cultural event. It was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. That was I would say those were some of the first rap songs that you didn't refer to me that I've listened to on my own, and I got 10 years.
Yeah.
It was a blast to be a part of it.
Yeah, and just some of the shit Kendrick says was just hilarious. Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, lost it.
Like, that's like, how do you come back from that?
You
And
don't.
then my last big dog of the week, this was on Tuesday, I believe. So we're sitting out at the picnic table on break, and some DoorDash driver comes up, and he was like, hey, I have a order for Andrea. And we're like, well, sucks to be you, buddy. Like, there's no Andrea who works here. And so like we radioed like, hey, did anyone order like Qdoba from DoorDash for lunch? Like thinking, oh, maybe someone's like significant other ordered it for them, or maybe just like the card or like their account was in their name or whatever. No, everyone's like, no, like I didn't order food. Go lay down, buddy. So this DoorDash driver or Uber Eats, whatever the fuck he was like, oh, okay, well, you guys can just have it. Sets it on the fucking picnic table, hops back in the vehicle, and just drives away. Just left this person's food there. And it was an order for 3 people from Qdoba. I have the receipt right here. Dude, $47.41 these people spent and didn't get their food. So I'm sitting there. I was like, well, fuck. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So I put it in the fridge at work and I grabbed the receipt. The person had their phone number on it. So I called them like 4 times trying to like, hey, like your food got delivered to the wrong place. Like if you want to come pick it up. Left a voicemail, everything. And this was at like 11 a.m. Didn't get back to me. So it's like 4:30 p.m. I'm getting ready to leave work. I was like, well, fuck it. Thanks, Andrea, for the fucking free food. So I grabbed the Qdoba, and for the past 2 days, I've been eating large steak bowls from Qdoba for dinner, just reheating them in my little frying pan. So shout out Andrea Tushin for the free Qdoba this week because you wouldn't pick up your fucking phone and don't know how to order food to the correct address. Also, that whoever the delivery driver was, absolute cock move. Just to be like, fuck it. Just leave it there, take the money and run. So, but it made my day, dude. The food was absolutely delicious. So,
yeah, shout out to Andrea.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, I had to keep the receipt so I'd remember her name. But yeah, I got it right here. You probably can't see, but yeah.
This week, I do have a big dog of the week. I'm going to keep it real short and sweet. It's Snoop Dogg, man. He's got his own bowl. He just got his own bowl game presented by Gin and Juice.
Juice, yeah.
If the Badgers aren't going to the playoff this year,
that's the game. We're going.
I'm going to the Snoop Dogg.
We are going. Yeah.
Live show.
Yes. I thought of them immediately. I was like, dude, if the Badgers go to this game, Ryan's from Arizona, so we got to go.
Oh, we're partying.
Yeah. Like, dude, we're about to get fucked up at the fucking Snoop Dogg Gin and Juice Bowl if the Badgers are in it.
Yeah, I'm going to be following bowl projections every week to see who's like, if we're in the sweet spot. Like, I'll root for the loss at the end of the year.
If Colorado State's in it, I might go. But no, that's an awesome big dog, Dillon. When I saw that this week, I was like, fuck yeah. Because I think that used to be the Barstool Sports one, didn't it?
Yep.
And where is it, Ryan? Is it in Phoenix or Tucson, you said?
Tucson, yeah. So it's at University of Arizona. So it's like, it's a decent looking campus too. So it's a lot of bars down there. So it's not quite Tempe, but Tucson, it's a place to be.
I'm not much of a drinker, but I could probably check it out.
Yeah, I mean, we could see if we could test that theory.
Yeah, we'll dabble.
Give into peer pressure. All right, Ryan, what are we doing here this week?
In the theme of keeping up with things that are happening on social media, Austin Rivers.
Yeah, this fucking guy.
What are we doing here? The audacity to say on Pat McAfee's show that you think 30 NFL guys couldn't be in the NBA, but 30 NBA players could be in the NFL. Let me remind you, you had a rule put in to discourage flopping. Let me also remind you that them boys don't take days off. We don't load I guess who the hell am I? They don't take days off to load manage. Like, get your soft basketball having nepotism ass out of here. If we get back to the real nitty gritty, Austin Rivers, I'm fairly certain you played at Duke because of Daddy. You were played for the Clippers because Daddy traded for you. So why don't you take your nepotism and get on, keep it moving? Because this whole idea that 30 NBA players can play in the NFL, start naming them. Legitimately, I did this exercise because I was heated when I saw it. I was literally trying to defend the NFL as if I'm a 14-year vet. And I'm like, I could only come up with about 2 guys. Anthony Edwards, put him somewhere in the defensive backfield. He will murder somebody. I'm here for that. And Wembanyama, because you need a red zone target, just put his freakazoid ass out there.
Up in the air.
Bingo.
I mean, LeBron, if he wasn't 40.
LeBron is the worst flopper in NBA history.
Yeah, but he was a hell of a football player in high school.
Yeah, when guys that were like half his size were hitting him, let him.
I'm just saying, like if there's anyone like in his prime with the like body and skill set, like he's got to be one of the guys. LeBron's kind of a bitch and maybe not the toughest guy when it comes down to it, but as far as like body type, athleticism type, like he's the guy who could play like wide receiver, tight end, maybe like
There's
H-back.
a reason why people stop playing football. Like LeBron
he stopped playing football because he realized he could make $1 bajillion playing basketball. Let's put that out there too.
And he was right.
For sure. But at the end of the day, when you're getting hit by like,
I get it. Yeah.
Like I will die on this. I'll stand on this business. There is no way LeBron makes it through a training camp. Blocking, sweaty, getting your head rammed into people. LeBron would not make it through a training camp.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let alone make the team. He's not making it through training camp. They always say some of the best basketball players were ones that got hit hard enough on the football field and changed professions.
Yeah, Charles Barkley said that's why he didn't play football. He got hit too hard. He's like, yeah, fuck that shit. Like I'm gonna do this.
And my last point about that, there was a guy that I can't remember his name now. I had wrote it down, but I can't read my own writing. That played high school football with Austin Rivers in North Carolina, that says, I remember you quit because the coach was yelling at you and it was too hot. Like NBA, like, why don't you say that, soccer players can play in the NFL?
Well, and like his point is flawed. Not that they played professionally, but like Jimmy Graham was a basketball player. Antonio Gates was a basketball player. Like, and Julius Peppers played football too. Like, but Julius Peppers was on the basketball team. Mo Alley Cox played basketball at VCU, and he's like a 7-year vet in the NFL. Like, so where like your point's kind of flawed there. Not like these guys are like, I mean, I guess Gates and Graham were like superstars, but like Mo Alley Cox literally didn't play football in college and has been an NFL vet. So like that kind of like makes
Dwayne Harris played at UW Milwaukee for the basketball team and then was the Chiefs backup tight end forever.
Yeah. So that's where I get where like, okay, like these kind of basketball players can go and play in the NFL. Like, but those are just freak athletes. Guys like Austin Rivers, like aren't.
It's usually tight end, like guys that they think like that's a big guy. He moves well. He's got good feet. Like
and what do they do? They go get it.
Yeah, I think
patterns. Go to the goal line, turn around, and catch this ball. I've seen Draymond Green on a football field before.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But that's where like those couple guys where it's kind of like you can like kind of make his argument, but also where it's like flawed. We're like, okay, well, yeah, Julius Peppers played basketball, but he was also like really, really, really good at football.
Can we also remember that those guys that played basketball played in a different era of basketball?
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Graham and Antonio Gates.
Well,
play with these NBA rules. Tell me 5 guys in the NBA's current system that could play with the physicality. Like Jimmy and them, they played in early 2000s basketball. It was a lot more physical.
Well, and Antonio Gates wanted to play. I think he wanted to play at Michigan State, or I forget where it was. He wanted to play both sports, and whoever the coach was told him no. And so he said, fuck you, and went to Kent State. Like, so these guys were like, probably all would have been football players first, but just maybe had more opportunities, like basketball wise. But yeah, where Austin Rivers is like, I guess my point on all of that is you got to be a special type of athlete to go from basketball to football. And like Dillon said, it's usually like tight end, defensive end, like positions that aren't glorified. And you got to have a special type of toughness about you to be able to do that. So I don't know.
Also, he came at my guy James Jones today, and I won't stand for that.
Like wide receiver James Jones?
Yeah, he came at the Green Bay Packers James Jones on Twitter.
Yeah, dude, James Jones. Fuck, I love James Jones.
Did you see him on Speak for Yourself?
No, I don't watch that garbage.
Well, neither do I. I just saw the clip. I'll put it in the group chat after this. James Jones absolutely flamed Austin. It was awesome.
I love to hear it. He wore a sleeveless hoodie in the winter for Green Bay, and so for that, I'm gonna love him forever.
Swagger on 100 million, dude.
The Jack, that's where like Derek Tyndall, Nick Nelson, they all used to do the same thing because of James Jones.
I love that.
The Jack boys.
Coop. What are we doing this week?
All right, what are we doing here? First one, I got 3. First one, I'm sure you guys saw this. Glenn Big Baby Davis is about to do 40 months in the fucking slammer for scamming the NBA. I think it was like health insurance or like something like that fund out of like a couple $100,000. What are we doing here, dude? Like that guy made so much money in his career. I'm sure he wasn't great with it, but like the fact that you have to scam like the health, like NBA health insurance thing, get the fuck out of here. And then when they interviewed him today, like coming out of court, he's like, well, I guess, I'm going to get in shape. The only way to keep me from eating hamburgers is to lock me up. It's like, dude, this isn't a fucking joke, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, you took money away from people who needed it, like healthcare wise. So I don't know. I loved him as a player, but fuck that guy, dude. You shouldn't be doing that.
Now do Brett Favre.
No, that was my childhood, Ryan. Don't you dare do that to me.
Brett Favre got shaking in his boots after he saw that.
But so I just saw that and needed to put that on there. My second one, let me pull this up here. My second, what are we doing here? Is this guy I follow on Twitter, Ryan Eilers.
Oh God.
Now, not that I disagree with you, Ryan, but that Cody Benjamin put out that quarterback power ranking list, which was trash. I think anyone who knows ball could know that. But Dillon, I don't know if you saw this. Here's Ryan's tweet. Okay, Ryan, what are we doing here?
I don't know what you're about to say.
LOL. Everyone has a platform these days. The more of these asinine lists come out, the more I'm with the players. If you didn't play, your rankings are irrelevant. I don't know what a Cody Benjamin is. Googled it. Checks out. Buddy, that's what we do every week. We have a platform and we just shit on people and we played high school sports, dog. So what are you doing here? You're just crediting what we're doing, brother.
Did you see the picture though?
I did see the picture. It checks out. But I saw your tweet. I was like, Ryan, you're talking about us, dude. Like, come on, man. That's not for the brand, brother. Like, if you didn't play, basically, if you didn't play, you should shut your fucking mouth. And I was like, we literally do the same thing every fucking week.
We all played. That kid has never played.
Probably not, but I just saw that. I was like, oh, geez, Ryan. I don't disagree with you. That list was garbage. But that just cracked me up where it's like, I almost replied. I was like, yeah, dude. It was almost like a couple guys had some random Badger podcast they do every week and shit on the players. Not that we shit on everybody, but still.
I was like, we put lists together, but it's like we actually put time and energy into it. Like if you saw that list, that was 100% engagement farming. And then I literally looked at Buddy's picture and someone's like, where's this Cody Benjamin from? I was like, where did he get this list from? And I thought I honestly, when you first started that, I thought you were going to talk about, I was going back and forth for a little bit. And I had a lot of comments on like that it was his 7th grade, English paper that he was trying to do. The kid looks like a toddler.
So yeah, that was one of them. And then my last, what are we doing here? Your boy, as people know, I like to indulge in some substances from time to time. But I've gone completely sober for a week. I just needed a break, kind of one of those resets or whatever. As you can see, I haven't been housing highlights this episode. I got my Diet Mountain Dew at 10:58 p.m., which I'm sure is a great call. What are we doing here, though? Dude, how do people just raw dog life for like years at a time? I don't know how people can enjoy this, man. I'm fucking miserable right now, guys. I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm going to get so fucked up. It's not even going to be funny. Like, and this says a lot more about me than other people and probably my personal issues and my problems. But I haven't been able to sleep. I've been angry. This is like music sucks. Sports suck. Like, I do not get how people just go through life just fucking raw dogging it. Like 25, 30 fucking years at a time. Are you kidding me? What are we doing here? Sounds fucking miserable. Like I said, I'm a week in and I feel like I've done a bid in prison, like a 10-year bid in prison right now. Like
hell of a reset.
Yeah, it was, dude. You
go to church? No, I just stopped for a week.
Yeah. So yeah, that's other than that, I got nothing. But like I said, this raw dog and life shit, that's a trip, man. More power to you people.
I don't even really know how to follow that. Keep battling, soldier, man. You've been a good soldier, it sounds like, and you're gonna have earn tomorrow. When
Oh yeah,
you know,
I took a half day from.
takes 5.
I took a half day from work tomorrow. We about to get real wild, boys.
I love that for you, man. I really do. I really do. I too am gonna have a what are we doing here moment of the week, and it actually is a moment that occurred 3 times this week.
Congrats on the sex.
Thank you. No, my what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Varsity Collective.
Hold on.
Nope. What are we doing here, Varsity Collective? They put out their their link to the Wisconsin distributors, alcohol distributors link for the new Varsity Golden Ale. So I pull it up. Pull it up, shows every place that has it throughout the state right now. I make 3 separate stops across 3 different counties. To try. I was on the road a lot this week. To try, Varsity Golden Ale. Just want to know. Obviously cases will come out in a couple of weeks here, but I'm trying to see what it's all about on tap. None of the locations that I stopped at had even heard of it, nor had it available. So,
whoa.
All I'm saying is, might want to update your link, or at least, get your ducks in a row here, because I'm out here trying to support, with 20% of my sales going towards NIL. I'm trying to do my part to turn the Wisconsin football program into an Alabama level type unit here. And, I've gotten pushback everywhere I've went. So would like to do my part. Varsity Collective, hopefully we can get this issue ironed out, and that this will just be a blip on the radar, long term. But
that's inexcusable.
Kind of feel the same way. Guy gets awfully thirsty and can't even support his program. I'm trying to put this in Hunter Woller's pocket, saying, "Please, Lord, come back another year."
See, I thought you were going to go a different route with those hostage videos that the program's making them do on Twitter. We need to stop those immediately, dude.
Do you know I like to golf?
Yeah, like what the fuck, bro? That shit was wild, dude.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Let's get a beer in order, and then we'll free the Badgers that are having to do the post. Obviously we're angling for that quick episode. I'm gonna get out of here. That hour and 33 mark, just like I figured.
Kiss of death.
Episode 39. Thank y'all for stopping by, and catch you back here next week.